Welcome to Tech in the Right Direction, the podcast. This week, I'll be speaking with Amber Ivey. Amber is a vice president at a nonprofit where she leads a team that helps governments drive impact. In her prior role as the senior director of the Bloomberg Philanthropy Center for Government Excellence at Johns Hopkins University, she led a team that assisted governments in utilizing data and performance management for decision making. Furthermore, she played a key role in the design and launch of the Bloomberg Philanthropy City Data Alliance. The program aims to train 100 mayors and their senior leaders throughout the Americas on utilizing data to achieve better outcomes. Formerly, she worked at the Pew Charitable Trust, a nonprofit focused on solving today's challenges by using data-driven, nonpartisan analysis. Here, Amber led the data collection and organization efforts of a first-of-its-kind research study on how all 50 states and the District of Columbia use data to solve complex problems, improve the delivery of government services, manage resources, and evaluate effectiveness. Most recently, Amber led a team that provided technical as well as strategic assistance to states and counties who are working towards streamlining their business processes and launching technology data like legal assistant websites and online courts to modernize and improve access to the legal system. Before joining Pew, Amber served at the Maryland StateStat, a performance measurement and management office established by former Governor Martin O'Malley. Following the change in administration, she helped facilitate the transition by demonstrating the effectiveness of data-driven decision-making through the StateStat. Additionally, she played a key role in the establishment of the Governor's Office of the Performance Improvement under Governor Larry Hogan. Before joining the state of Maryland, Amber was a logistics manager for the Fortune 50 company, where she used data to drive efficiency, productivity, and profits. She switched from private to the public sector to use her skills in service of government efficiency. She has her MPA and J.D. and is excited to serve at the intersection of data, technology, public policy, and law. She is also the creator and host of AI for Kids podcast, a series of podcast interviews with industry experts and everyday people who help explain topics related to AI for kids and their parents, and the creator of AI Digitales, an edutainment platform that focuses on AI for kids. Welcome to the show, Amber. I'm so excited to have you on.
So excited to be here.
Great. So Amber, as a woman in tech, can you share with us your career journey and how you got to where you are today?
So I have a weird career journey. I started off actually in logistics management, and tech has fallen in my lap on accident. I'll explain why. So I've always been really excited about data and operations and efficiencies. So I was able to join the government some time ago after my logistics career and started doing data work at the state of Maryland, which was great, under two different governors. And we were able to use data to help the governor make decisions based on different goals both of them had at the time. And there I was like, this is so cool, using things like data to be able to access information as well as help people get the information they need to make decisions. And then I continued to do a lot more data work by doing research on that, and had the opportunity to also work in other areas of helping government be more efficient. I say I'm a person that helps government be more efficient by things such as data, law, public policy, and technology. That's my intersection. And I've been able to work in different areas, such as helping courts be more efficient by launching things like online courts where people can literally go to court on their phone, or leading a team that launched legal assistance portals, or basically websites individuals can go on and get help for their legal issues within the civil legal system in particular. And I've also had a few startups under my belt that are focused on technology. I'm a co-founder of a med tech company that's trying to use data and technology to understand people with brain conditions such as neurology conditions. I personally live with multiple sclerosis, and the goal is that it helps you capture the data you need. It helps you capture the data you need to ensure that individuals have exactly the right treatment plans. And I've also started an AI for Kids company that's not necessarily a tech company in particular, but it focuses on teaching kids about tech and the tools. And what I really tell people is that my journey has been a journey of using what I'm good at, which is data and efficiencies, and trying to figure out how can I help make other areas or avenues of work better and people get more access to information. How can I meld those things together? So even though I started in logistics, I still feel like I'm in logistics because I'm helping to move data around or helping people to make efficient decisions or think about ways to improve government or improve the way we think about knowledge and information.
That's awesome. And you're, a trailblazer in that area because things are just starting out with AI. So that's great. So let's talk about data-driven decision making. You talk about that currently that you're working on. Tell us more as to why leveraging data is so important to government efficiency and impact, and impact is so important.
So data is a word that people often hear. We use it so much, but it means so much behind it. And I often say to people, data is more than just a number. It's normally, particularly in government, a human life that's behind that number, because government has been put in place in the US in particular to ensure that we have services that we provide to citizens, whether it's at the local level of filling your pothole and getting your trash and your recycling picked up, all the way up to the federal level, where making sure you have access to human services, IRS, taxes, and all these other things. So data is across our entire government system. And I've had the benefit of working across mostly state, local, local being city and county, to help them really use that data to make decisions and drive outcomes. Some of the spaces where I've seen that show up, for example, was when I was at the state of Maryland. I worked for an organization called StateStat. And what that basically did was collect a large amount of data from all the agencies that were in the state to help them accomplish a goal. So for example, we had a goal to help more Marylanders at the time become college and career ready. So we collected data on how students were doing across post-secondary, college, community college, and all those areas, as well as did they get a job, to understand how those individuals were going through the different systems that we have in the state with education and actually getting to an outcome such as a career or some type of job. I've also worked in the area of climate and energy and looking at that data to understand how do we think about things like emission numbers and how do we make sure that we're being responsible as we launch different programs in the state. And I've worked across, even more recently, I work to support or lead teams that work on data related to homelessness and how we can improve homelessness populations across cities and states across the US. So it literally ranges on a lot of different areas. And the reason why it's important is, as people who work in the government, one of the things we're responsible for is making the world a little bit better and making sure we're being responsible to the taxpayer dollars that we're receiving. And data helps us to understand how well we're doing, how we can do better. And if data is harnessed in the right way, you can actually make decisions that do help impact and improve lives for individuals, such as the examples that I mentioned earlier. Homelessness, we've been able to help people house more individuals by looking at their data and choosing those who probably need housing the most and ensuring they have that the services they need to do the work.
Yeah, that's so important and such good work that you're doing around data. I remember when I had, started my business, everything was my gut. I was making decisions based on my gut. But as time went on, I realized how important data-driven decision making is, and started to really make all my decisions based on data because that's so accurate. It's telling you the real story. And I love that. So that's great. So you're very passionate about education also and AI. Why is teaching kids about AI and ensuring that they can navigate a future driven by AI is critical for them? Why is that so important?
So the funny thing is, I started talking about this to adults for some time now. I used to have a podcast where I talked about this topic. Mostly my whole intersection is data, law, public policy, and technology just because of my background. But then there came a point where I was seeing all the things that were happening while I was working with different governments, seeing how they were implementing AI type tools or things like predictive analytics, natural language processors. I started seeing that stuff like years ago. So I wanted to share that with adults to say, hey, this thing is happening. You should be at least aware of what's going on and how our careers are going to change. But I also realized adults are a little bit nervous about the topic of AI. And they were very nervous about this even before ChatGPT came out when I was talking about it. But now that ChatGPT and those large language models tools are out, people are still very nervous and wondering what's going to happen. So one of the things I do know is that my nieces, and I have a nephew who's now just turned 1, my nieces in particular, they do interact with technology. They talk to the different voice assistants in the home on a regular basis, and they have a form of AI in them, even though it's a basic form, right? So I wanted to make sure I met the group that was, one, ready to hear about this topic and also open to it, as well as the group that's probably going to be the most impacted and affected by this technology. I know Gen Z, there's studies that show that Gen Z in particular are very nervous about the future of careers because the skill cycle is like speeding up. What used to be like a cycle of 10 years from what I hear is now down to like 2.5 years where skills are cycling. So we want to make sure those young people who are growing up understand the change that's happening. They're going to have more change than we did. And how can they react and respond to that? And I believe AI is going to be at the center of a lot of that change. So I want to make sure kids, when they interact with these technologies, they see it in a way that's not scary, like we adults sometimes see it, but they see it as a way of, this is something that I'm just growing up in. I have to learn how to deal with it and adjust. But I've learned about it in a way that I can do it responsibly. I can learn about what's not safe about it, what is good about it. And doing that is my hope to guide those students through this process and those kids through this process by basically having someone to walk hand in hand with them through the process.
And how are the kids adapting to it?
I think kids are better than we are.
Yeah,
So
I
the
agree.
funny thing
I
is
agree.
kids have already, yeah, they've already jumped in and started using these tools. And often like teachers sometimes are telling kids, don't use it. And some people are literally saying, you probably need to actually have the student teach at a teach-in or a teacher sit-in or whatever, or one of those days we have a working day, bring a student in and actually have the student work with it. And then teachers should be then looking at how they can actually use it to learn. Because students are already using this stuff. Like they grew up on Roblox and gaming that have been like have AI embedded for a very long time that get better as they interact.
Yeah, they're not afraid of it.
They're not afraid at all. And they like my nieces, I have a 4-year-old niece now and a 9-year-old niece. As long as they've been on this earth, they've known Alexa and okay, Google or whatever virtual assistant they were calling out. And they talk to them to ask questions, or they go on their devices and they're in apps that have AI. So for them, it's like, that's all they know.
Right. No, that's great. And what ages are the kids in your program?
So I focus on kids ages 4 to 12. The reason why I chose that age group was because there's been a lot of focus on high schoolers for sure as it relates to coding. They're starting to get to middle, but the pre-K to elementary to early middle is kind of left behind. So I really wanted to get kids where we know their brains have the most development happening. Like we know kids' brains are mostly developed by 5. And then we know that mastery, if done right, mastery happens basically in that middle grade age, where if your kids start doing something in that age group, then if they've done it for 20 years, let's say, for example, they start at make up an age 9 and they do it between 9 to 29. If I start at 20 and do it for 40 years, they will still be better than me just because they did it at a time when their brain was best primed for that skilling. So my hope is that I get kids interested in elementary and those ages so they can start to think about what that looks like to eventually get into it when they're in middle school. So they're interacting with AI. It doesn't have to be coding, but at least understanding the skill sets, problem solving, critical thinking, logic, all the things that are important just in general of being a human. And then the relationship piece for me is huge as to why like I introduce the information through characters and through books, because I want people to remember that technology shouldn't make you lose your creativity or any of that. Like you should remain a kid, do all the things that kids should do, run, play, jump, and all of that. But there is this technology that's here. So in my books, the technology interacts with the kids and learns from the kids as the kids are also learning from it. But we always push back to the human factor.
No, that's great. And 8 to 13 is when I've realized is the best time to get girls interested
Mm,
in technology, because if you miss that window, then you've
mhm.
lost them, that they're not interested anymore.
That's such a good point. I know I
Yeah,
saw something recently to your point about girls, where it's like girls believe they can be anything they want to be up until a certain age, and then it starts to go down. So I want to
right.
make sure, to your point, like we got to capture those kids, and
And
especially
you have, but if you're going to 12, that's perfect. 8 to
great.
12 probably their range. So, do you have a good mix of girls and boys in your program?
Yes, so actually girls and boys are involved and interested, which is great. I don't I think also because the first book that came out, I made sure it was a little girl that introduced first.
Oh,
And then
great.
we're introducing other characters. Yes, I started with a little girl who is the one who meets the robot. Her name is Addie Iris. So she's also AI. My initials are also AI, so play on that. And the characters are named after my nieces and my nephew. So the original characters that start off. So it starts off with Addie Iris. She's lives in the city of Baltimore, right near Johns Hopkins, which has an AI lab. But they before the AI lab, they had Whiting School of Engineering, which has been doing a lot of cool stuff in AI. So she meets this robot named Jazz, also named after one of my nieces, who's
Mhm.
lost because its GPS has malfunctioned along the way. And they meet together, and Addie helps Jazz get back to his lab. And then as we go through the stories, we introduce other characters. We have another book coming out actually in September that introduces even more characters. And I personally grew up in an environment where I was around a lot of different types of people. I was an army brat, so I lived as far east as Germany and as far west as Arizona. So I
Mm.
grew up around a lot of different people. So the new characters that we're introducing represent those people I've met along my journey, and being able to see and hopefully have kids see themselves in these fields. So, like you said, if I'm an 8-year-old girl, I see a little girl in a book, or I see a little boy in a book, no matter who I am, that says, oh, I can do this too. This isn't something that's off limits for me.
Right. Okay, great. So, as a woman in tech, what challenges have you faced in your career and how have you overcome them?
I think I hate to use this word, imposter syndrome. I think that is so real.
Yeah.
Because even I've been in the data space for some time, and people ask me to do interviews and things like that in my day job and talk about my work. I literally didn't even put myself in the STEM space until like last year. And I've been
Mhm.
doing data work for over a decade. It just didn't click for me that that was me and that was who I am. So one of the
Mhm.
things that I've been trying to work on is to make sure I understand that I now represent something, and people see me as a person who does do that, but to also not run away from it, to like fully embrace it and fully say, yes, that is me. But I have struggled with that personally. And then external things, like it's just weird when you're in a space where you're like the one of one or or one of two maybe across departments. So I would love for a world where there are more people, more women in particular, who are in some of these fields, so that you don't feel alone. I've had great people mentor me along the way across different jobs, so I'm thankful for that. But I would like there to be more people who are focused on these topics. And that's another reason why I think sharing what we do, not hiding behind what we do, and sharing it with other people and mentoring is so important.
So important, yeah. And we all have to see people in that role in order to imagine ourselves in that role. So it's very important
Totally.
to yeah, to show who you are and what you're doing. Great, great. Now, can you give us an example of how you use data to solve government-related problems? I know you did originally give us a couple, but just
Oh,
give us
yeah.
a real example.
Yeah, so one example I can use, I was working with, I won't say which agency, I was working with the agency, and they had gotten a lot of bad press in the news. So they were going to have to be a part of this program that we were participating in. And they had never had looked at their data in a way that allowed them to like make decisions. So I worked with them, did some on the ground site visits with them, and we looked at their data, and we were able to identify a few things. Like we saw that they had a workforce that was at that time 57% of them were eligible for retirement.
Mm,
This is a state agency, so that's like
wow,
scary. Yeah,
57%. That's a
57%,
big number. Yeah.
very big number. And then we also found that less than 10% were at the time were under the age of 30. So even if they had a big group leave, their pipeline was just very small. So we were able to help them just identify some of the issues that were happening and actually start focusing on start focusing on different areas and to see how they can improve that. We also recognized that they weren't able to do some of their job completely. So we were able to use data to elevate it up to the governor to say, hey, governor, they're not able to do what is legally mandated. Can they try out a pilot program? And in this case, they use the pilot program to do aerial pictures instead of doing like in person, someone walking by and actually like looking at and surveilling for taxes. They were able to use airplane to basically sit at the desk and do more properties at their desk. So I've used data in a lot of different ways, but I always think that's a cool example. One, on the staffing side of being able to see what's happening in your operations, and then also two, being able to use data to make the case to a governor or governor's office or anyone in decision making at different levels of decision making that you can get funding or get permission to do some cool and innovative stuff.
Yeah, no, that's great. Okay, so you said adults are afraid of AI a little bit. How can we ensure that AI is used ethically and responsibly in business and really everywhere today? Because I think that's part of the fear that they're experiencing.
One thing I'll say about that is I think that fear is fine to have some level of fear, but if fear stops you from using a technology or using a tool, that's where it doesn't help with the ethical conversation, right? So if I am using a tool I'm a Black woman, if I'm using a tool as a Black woman, I'm asking the tool to create something like create an image of a Black girl skating down the street for whatever reason. Let's say I'm in marketing and it doesn't produce a Black girl skating down the street. It produces a person of a different race, or it doesn't produce a Black girl skating down the street because it doesn't have pictures of a Black girl skating down the street, right? So I need to be able to say, hey, oh, this doesn't know this. There needs to be a little bit more data on this this person, yeah, because it doesn't have that in there. Even another like really simple example that I can use, I was doing it at work to explain the topic to individuals, and I did a little bit of like playing around with either Midjourney or ChatGPT. I can't remember at this point, but I did dog or cat chasing dog, and I put a whole bunch of prompts in there for cat chasing dog. It would not send me a picture of a cat chasing a dog. It was only dogs chasing cats because in our society, we understand or we believe that only dogs chase cats. I have a cat and a dog. Cats chase dogs, right?
Yeah.
But there's no images of that. So if you only load in a bunch of images on one ideology or one thing, there's nothing else that unless someone comes in and say, hey, there's an issue here, we need those people who are fearful, often adults and people across different industries who may not use it.
That they are thinking and really train AI, right?
Exactly right. And if you're not using it and you're scared, I won't know that cats chase dogs because I don't have that experience. So I need you to come in and tell me, hey, cats chase dogs, Amber, this shouldn't be the only image that we're showing.
Right. No, that's great. Great example. Thank you. So this is a tough question because it's tough for me. I don't know if it's tough for you, but how do you balance home and work? Because it's so difficult. You know, in all the years that I had my business, I always worked all the time, it felt like, and I always had my laptop wherever I went so I could respond to things if I needed to.
Yeah.
But, you know, there is this balance of home and work, and we need to balance it correctly so that we can have some quality of time at home and relax and rejuvenate and then come back to work. So what are your thoughts? What works for you?
So the first thing that worked for me, and it started probably 12 to 15 years ago, I chose a job or field that I love so much because my personality doesn't understand separation between work and home.
Mine either. So that's why I think this is a tough question.
It's hard. Because and so I don't understand that concept, one. So, but I did understand that if I don't understand the concept, I knew whatever I did in my day job, as well as my side businesses and work life and all that, that it had to be stuff I love. So the advice I give is just make sure whatever you're doing is something you love, because even if it's something you love and you may be spending more hours on it, it doesn't feel like it. Like I spend a lot of time doing this stuff. I don't feel it at all compared to when I was in
work.
No, not at all. It feels like I just woke up and I'm doing my day, and my day means helping people use data, which really excites me. my night is helping kids ensure they understand AI, and it really excites me. So there's never a moment where I'm like, oh, gotta get up and do that data thing again or
Yeah.
that AI thing again. It's more so like, wow, I get to get up and do this. What's next? I can't wait for the next adventure. So I always say, like, people need to also like put time on your calendar, though. I do put focus time on my calendar because you have to be able to think. I put lunch on my calendar, even though I don't always take it, but I do try to block out my schedule so I know when things are happening. And then I give myself plenty of time to chill out on the couch if I want to. Like, I don't judge myself because I work very hard. So if I want to binge watch a show on TV that's on Netflix or something else, I do that. And I give myself that time and ability to do it.
Great. That's great. I think that's a great example because do what you love, but also get some downtime.
Oh, yeah.
That's
You
really,
still need downtime, even when you love.
yeah,
Like, we love people, our family members, and everyone around us, but there's times where we don't want to be around them. So we all
right,
still need
right.
downtime, even when we love something.
Yeah, no, that's true. Very good. So here's one of my favorite questions, and it's kind of selfish because I love to travel and I always want to know what
Mhm.
is your favorite place that you've been to and why, because then I can add it to my list.
Okay, so I have an answer for this. I was just talking to someone about this yesterday. So I lived in Stuttgart, Germany for a short period of my life, like 2.5 years when I was a kid. And it was just such an amazing like time. And they have something there. The English version is the Christmas market in Stuttgart. And it's just like the most magical place experience that you'll ever see. You feel like you're in a Hallmark times 10
Oh,
movie, but I
I
just
thought,
love the castles, the vineyards, the like everything, the amusement parks. They had a park called Fairy Tale Garden because the fairies, many of the fairy tales were created in Germany. So you get to like interact with the fairy tales live. Like it was just such a magical place. And I need to get back there as an adult, but I loved it.
that's amazing. And you're speaking my language when you talk about vineyards and you talk about Christmas. I love all of that. So that's
Oh
great.
yeah.
Yeah. So and Stuttgart. I haven't been to Stuttgart. I've been to Munich, but not
Ah,
so next time I've got to do that and go
and
to the
hit and go during the Christmas market. Even if
yeah,
you Google the Christmas market in Stuttgart, you'll be like, oh my gosh.
yeah, I will definitely do that. And is there a time of year you have to go there?
So you have to go near like it's end of November through December is the time period I believe Christmas market is open.
Great, great, great. Oh, I love that. Thank you for that.
No
Um,
problem.
right. Well, this has been such a pleasure and an honor to have you on my show. I know our listeners will get a lot from it, but let them know how they can get a hold of you and if they have kids that might want to join your children's AI class, how do they do that? Just give us some information on how to get a hold of you.
Of course. So my name is Amber Ivy. That's AMBER IVEY, on all major platforms like LinkedIn. As it relates to the company, it's called AI Digitales. So it was a play on AI and digital plus tales since we're really focused on edutainment. So you can go to www.aidigitales, that's aidigitales.com, and we're AI Digitales on all platforms. And we'll be opening up a new round of workshops. If you are a school that just wants to bring us in for a workshop, you can definitely reach out on the website. There's a
Okay.
section that
Okay.
says workshop, but definitely reach out and we'll make sure we get there.
That's awesome. I hope you get some calls for that because I think, if we start out young, that's the best place to start. And then they grow from there, and you
Oh,
don't
yeah,
have anxiety as you get older about something that's not really something that should make you anxious.
totally agree.
Yeah. Great. Well, Amber, this was an honor. Thank you so much for being on my show. I appreciate it.
Thank you for
And
having me.
yeah, absolutely. And thank you for all your good work that you're doing for both kids and women and everybody in AI. So really, really appreciate that. Thank you. And hopefully we'll have you on a future show. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you for listening to Tech in the Right Direction. Please take a minute to subscribe or follow so that you never miss an episode. Also, don't forget to like, share, and comment. Thank you. See you next week.
From IT skill enhancements to end user adoption training, Directions Training is your resource to help optimize the effectiveness of your technology investments. Over 500,000 students have taken advantage of our wide selection of technology and business training solutions covering the most popular applications today, such as Microsoft 365, Azure, Windows 10, and more. As a podcast listener, we invite you to take advantage of an exclusive offer. Receive 30 days of free access to our Microsoft official curriculum on-demand courses for IT professionals or end users. Visit us at www.directionstraining.com/podcast to claim this offer today. Hurry, this offer is only available for a limited time. Success is a journey. Ask for directions.